Okay, so this is part two of of cultural theory today or this week. Part one, we talked about RFK Jr.'s appearance and how he's actually, he's healthier than I am. I'll tell you that much. And he's older than I am. Talk about whether the secret sauce of the Republican Party is trans kids and of having low-wage workers, with the conclusion being on that workers should have dignity, so they should have immigration status and actually have the alternative of going to school and getting paid to go to school, regardless of their immigration status, that they would get a check for going. So so there's opportunity class costs that they can point to not pick vegetables and pick fruit and then work in meat cutting plants. But they'd have to be paid better so that they can, because the alternative is that they get paid just to go to school, to learn English and other skills, because that's good for society. It's good for their societies back home by raising literacy back in their countries if they return home, or having good literacy here. Because if we finance with a value at with a goods and service, if we finance Social Security with a goods and services tax rather than a payroll tax, or even an employer paid VAT, then people who spend money fund other people spending money, because that's what retirement income's for. It's to spend money. But the Republicans seem to think, it's their stance on it, to have somebody to hate or manipulate, whether it be trans kids or immigrants. So speaking of hating immigrants and xenophobia, which is up there with transphobia, Trump's going on his little tour, or sending his headset on tour and his people. First they went to L.A., got spanked and were humiliated. But I'm sure Donald Trump feels like he did something in L.A. The Trump ego tour, even if he did, and he showed up. And he was in Washington, and he's called out the guard, and the local leadership was glad he did. They actually helped, and it's in the parameters of DC governance. It's actually not an illegitimate thing that they did, and they picked up a lot of guns. So, guns are a public health problem. And they are will be in Chicago too. Trump's, this is, it's a Trump racist tour, because he goes these places and he conquers black cities, and he hasn't quite made them sundown towns yet, but he's going for the trifecta, but in Chicago. So he hit L.A. first, then D.C., aka Chocolate City. Then he's going to go to Chicago, where there's a couple of blocks in D.C. in the Benning Road area that are dangerous, that you don't go to, especially if you're white and walking, or black and walking, even, especially if you're black and walking, or it's, but the rest of Southeast DC is a wonderful place, and Northeast DC as well. Ivy City can be dangerous too. It's in Northeast, but yeah, it's DC is mostly very safe. There's a couple spots, and maybe the National Guard troops should be there. I think probably having the National Guard rather than the police would probably make the people in the city who wants their neighborhoods back more sanguine than the popo. Having the guardsmen may keep them safer. We should that should be a poll. What keeps you safer? Police or troops in dealing with youth violence. Because it's youth, shooting each other. It's, gang warfare with guns instead of knives, which is stupid. But, Trump is going to places where he doesn't like the population's color and sending troops to get control of those places and clean them up, which is all his ego. It's like his Kennedy Center thing. He wants to show he's king of every city. And then his troops leave, and the city is the way it was. But it's a camera shot. It's Trump looking busy for his conservative base, going after immigrants and going after black people. So, these ICE immigration raids, they're enforcing the law, but the law's an ass. So, yeah. So they why is it the conservatives want to use hate as a positive with their base? Being against trans people, being against because people don't like to say the word transsexual, and people don't like immigrants, so he's rounding up the immigrants and sending them home. Nobody thought that the government could do that, but the government's doing that. So, yeah, it's like, what are you doing here? 11 million people, or 12 or 13 million people, come to your orders. The pandemic, and then you set sick ice on them. So, it's a mess. And it's, and Trump and Miller are true believers in the xenophobia. They're not even acting. That's their core. That's the ugly core of the Republican Party right there. So, and people of the left have got to realize that, when they're seeking office in a primary or in a general election against the other party, the Democrats should say, yes, we proudly support transsexuals. Let's use the traditional term, and people who are transnational who come over the border, they should be have respect dealing with their world. That you don't have to denigrate somebody, meaning tear them down, to have them want to take a job. That's counterintuitive. It's like, come, we will enslave you, which is what we're doing. But you can send money home. Come, we'll enslave you, but you can send money home. Because that's the biggest shot of foreign aid. Remittances is the main source of income. Foreign aid, they don't, especially with gutting of USAID. It really is. Remittances really are the only way to send money to a country. So, yeah, it's messed up. But Trump's ego is to go and conquer black cities. So, yeah. What did I write? Income, immigration. Oh, income. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going after black cities is kind of his thing. So he wants to think he's doing something. And going after immigrants, going after black citizens, they're not going to be in Des Plaines with immigrant raids. They'll be in Southie, the home of the Pope, South Chicago. So they'll go after the people who are under. If you were the local bishop, he would just stop them. Say no. But he's got a world church to run, not the Archdiocese of Chicago. There'll be with Cardinal Soup, which is doing just a fine job anyway. So he's a good leader of the church. But Trump's not a good. Trump's leading his faction into racism is a good thing. Sexism is a good thing. Because they like it. So I don't think they like it as much as it's going now, though. So we'll be seeing what they demand about legal immigration if they're cutting down on illegal immigration at the midterms next year. So, and I'll have more to say about that when we get there. You know, especially the whole trans thing is not an issue again because McCall ran a crappy campaign against it. Don't do that. You know, this Spamberger's running a very positive. I'm a blonde and you want to make a governor kind of thing. You know, she's younger than me though. She's entitled to still be blonde. But I think gray hair on women is sexy too. So because I'm a gray-haired man. So, but it really is, especially if people aren't getting work done. That's so. But you know, Abigail. We're going to have a governor named Abigail in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's a good thing. So, and you know, we'll have a woman governor anyway. But let's not have a Trumpian, shall we? Although she's not going to conquer black people, at least. But you know, Donald is. You know, he wants to control the Kennedy Center. He wants to control the crime. He thinks he's the governor of Douglas Commonwealth, and to an extent he is, and to an extent that's why we need to have Douglas Commonwealth statehood. So D.C. So you know, go D.C., free D.C. I've got a cap around here that says that because I am one of the original. Well, not original. I am one of the groups that came out of the woodwork back in the late 90s. So, and there's a new protest movement coming around. Some of it associated with Black Lives Matter. You know, power, power to the people, especially those people who are oppressed, who get sat on while they're in prone position, so that they die. That happens to it happens to black people. It happens to alcoholics, you know, and people who aren't able to be cooperative because they're intoxicated. You know, George Floyd was intoxicated when they killed him. That's kind of a thread that, again, people make laws based on moral judgments. They do that with transsexuals. They do that with immigrants and other low-wage workers, and they do it with drunks. So, yeah, put down police abuse too. So that's my thoughts for the last couple days. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of the weekend.